So I'm just gonna take a second to just make sure everything's going good before I really dive into what I have planned for today. I'm moving a little bit slower than I expected. I know I said that I wanted to have the test suites done. I think I said Wednesday previously, but I didn't account for missing, Tuesday and things. But things happen, so it's okay. I am planning to have this done by Friday. If not, I may just do it over the weekend, and then Monday might be a shorter day actually from from Monday, because I think most of Monday is going to be set up for getting the front end going, and it'll be a bit of a playground kind of day, because I'll be doing some things that I've never done before, such as getting the not the documents, but getting the files that I need from was this Adobe XD, because I created some stuff in there that I don't necessarily have anywhere else. For instance, the pop-ups that I like, some of the background image for sure, right? That's the biggest thing. I don't have that stuff, so I'll have to make sure that I do have a way to get that. So that'll be a big playground day. So excuse me. Be patient with me when it comes to that stuff, because it's gonna be something completely new. So with that being said, I'm just making my daily Instagram setup to say, hey, I'm live, tune in kind of thing, and we'll get the ball rolling. And I guess really the biggest point here is, it's 8:01. I want to give people a little bit more time to get in and to get on to the stream, so that way when I get started, I don't have to, any stragglers coming in. And let me just say link in bio. So thanks for being patient with me on this. Now let's go ahead and get started. Actually, I want to make this a little bit more. There we go. Make that pop. Should it? Yeah, let's get there. So now that we've got the social media stuff out the way, let's go back to where we were, and let's go ahead and get our server spun up here. So we're going to do npm run test, and this sets our server up. And right off the bat, I know that yesterday when I ended our session, I was having an issue with the post model, and it really wasn't a problem. So, but again, I think I remember saying something about caching, and I don't really know the best way to explain it, but when I dropped everything from the database, I know you guys saw me do that yesterday when we went to MongoDB. You right click on the specific collection that you're talking about, and then you right click it, drop it, all of that stuff, and then you start with a fresh one, and then your server's all fresh. I actually had this working to say, hey, I want the title and the category to be unique across things, and the tests actually worked, because in this particular case, right, when we're looking at our test for should not create duplicate posts, that actually gave me the 409 that I was looking for, and I was happy with that, because I couldn't get it before, and now we're getting it. So that's great, because it's showing me here that it's aware of what's going on. Now the one thing that I didn't test is, let's say I have something of the same, let's say over here, let's say I created something completely new. For instance, my bad, I was looking here thinking I had the post one and post two. So for instance, as our database is now, we can have our testing one, and we can have our testing alt, right? Um, Category, with testing alt category, and then we have our testing one title, and then our testing category. So these currently exist in the database as it is, and the database has the same setup going in. So the fact that these tests are still showing the number of elements that we're looking for just shows that it works. So I don't even have to worry about trying to do test cases for that because I already know it works. And when you go here and you get that issue with the duplicate, that also proves to me that one, it doesn't allow us to do duplicates, and two, that this already exists. So that was really all I wanted to do here, is to kind of give a summary on what we've covered so far. And I want to dive back into where we were with our patch router and, continue on with from yesterday. So we got down to getting our 200, meaning we were able to update something, and then we have our 409 for our duplicates. Another thing that we have to account for is our, let's see, this is actually what we're looking for here. So we got to get this 404, right? Because let's say we're trying to update something that doesn't exist, right? So now we're going to go ahead and write our test for that to say, hey, we should throw 404 if something exists. So we say should throw error, if post does not exist. And then the way we'll do that is the same as usual. We're going to do our async, and then we're going to create our callback. Oh, excuse me. And then we have our code that's going to go in here. So we're going to, same as usual. So we're going to await request, and then we're going to pass in our app, and then we're going to do a dot patch because that is the type of request that we're trying to make. And I'm actually just going to copy this. And the only thing I'm going to do here is, I remember I have to be very careful with this because I can't just throw in anything, because in these cases it's looking for a object ID, so I can't just give this any kind of ID here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do new mongoose dot types, and I'm going to do dot object ID. And I don't know why my nose keeps tickling, so excuse me if I just keep whacking that. I got a fan blowing on me, so it's probably blowing some hairs on my nose. On my nose, not in my nose. Just to be specific, make sure I'm clear on that. So now we have our patch, and then we need to do our authorizations here. So let's see, we're going to do a dot set. Actually, I'm just going to grab the one from below it and use that so I don't have to do all that typing. And then we're going to do a dot send here, and it really doesn't matter. We can throw the same information if we wanted to that we did before, and we can just throw that in, and we can just say we're going to send out this title, and only thing we have to do now is do our dot expect 404, because we shouldn't be creating anything else because of the simple fact that it just doesn't it doesn't exist. So what I'm going to do down here is we're going to just expect this to be, and when I say this, I mean this post. So we're still expecting our post 1 to have the original title that it was given. So that is testing 1. So we have this information. We're going to drop that, I'm sorry, not there, here. Oops. There we go. And I believe, oh nope, that was wrong. I need to drop it here. So I put it in the wrong place. So now this is just saying we're going to look this up. We're going to look up this post that we said we were looking at here. Actually, it doesn't really matter because that post doesn't even exist anyway, right? So I guess this is a bit, well, not a bit, it is redundant because it doesn't even exist. So we're not changing anything. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I guess, yeah, because we're not creating, it's not like we're in a creation, so we just want to make sure nothing was created. This is absolutely not going to do anything, because once we return this 404, it jumps out of that completely and throws and jumps down in here. So we are completely good there. So yeah, we're gonna keep going with this. And again, the one thing I did forget to go over before was the way I got this 409 to come out when we have our duplicate. And what I did was, what happens is if you look at the response for when we have a duplicate, you probably seen it. You definitely have seen it in a lot of the previous videos, especially yesterday's video. You saw the error we got in the terminal, and it gave us the name and it gave us this code. So the only thing I did was, we know it's going to throw an error when we know what exactly we're going to error is going to give. We know the name and we know the code. So the only thing I did was I said, okay, let me grab this information and use this to give the specific response that I want to give. And I use this return here because I want to make sure it doesn't jump down here and give two statuses, because I don't even know it's possible to do that, but I just wanted to make sure it didn't. So definitely just wanted to return out of the whole catch block, and then make sure that it did send out this error message. So that's what's happening here, and that's pretty much it, really. So if you know what to expect, you can just kind of wait for it. It's like when you're chasing, if you're playing tag or something like that, and you get somebody on a specific route, you know exactly where to wait for them, so it comes and you just get it, and that's all that's happening there. So our previous test over here with our 404 worked, so that's good, and we don't really have to test anything here because it's either you update or you don't, right? So another thing that we can get is that 400 error, and I believe we can get that 400 error if, let's say, let's see, how could we get a 400? I'm thinking, oh, I see. Let's say we update a status with a status that is invalid. That is not a valid status, so we should get a 400. So that's where these other errors come from. So initially it's like, hey, if you set it up and we didn't want to do this control 409, if anything was to screw up, you would just get a 400. So even in this specific case where we had a duplicate, and I didn't spell duplicate there, it would give you a 400 instead of a 409 if we didn't have in this code in our catch block. So now we're going to do our 400, and I'm just trying to keep this stuff numeric, so I'm just putting in above everything, and then we're just going to say should throw error if, and I believe it was the status, right? If status is not valid. And then we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do our sync, and we're going to set up this arrow function, and then we're going to just send the same payload as we did over here with this 404, except we're going to get a 400, and we're going to change this back to object1id, well, post1id, I'm sorry, and paste that in there, and then we change the status to something that's not draft, pending, or active. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say scheduled, right? That's something that I might think about. I might say scheduled thinking pending, right? Hopefully I spelled that right. Well, it doesn't matter if spelling's off, but I just don't want to look like an idiot on camera. So we have, actually not export. I'm trying to think to see if there's any expectations that I should make. I guess since the object ID is correct, I can just go ahead and say, hey, make sure that the status is still whatever status we gave it, which I believe is draft. Yes. So if I say this is a draft, so I want to go here and I'm going to say the status. Excuse me. And then we just want to expect it to be a draft. And there we have it. So now when I save this, we should be good to go. And there we go. So we get the 400 as expected. and our code is working fine, exactly the way it should, right? We're getting all of the required information. Let's see here. What else do we need? So we got the 404, we got the 409, and we got the 400. I think we're good to go here. And I think we even have it set up so that way you don't even have to worry about an image. We can test that specifically, since we can say that may be something separate from what's going on, because we're used to sending out the request body, but we can say, okay, let's make sure that we have a image as well. So, excuse me, with a cover image, right? So let's say we change our cover image for our post, and we go in here, we do our request, we do our endpoint, we get our authorization, and then instead of send, we got to do dot attach, and then we don't send in this body anymore. We send in. I really don't want to. There we go. I just want to grab this attach line because I just don't want to do all that extra typing if I don't have to. And I'm going to grab all of this here and just replace it with what we just got. And there we go. And I don't need to use send. And the only thing I have to do is I just want to make sure there's a value there. I don't have to do this, right? I can just ignore it. So you can say dot cover image. This would be cover image, and I don't even want it to be. I just want it to be. Let's see. The only thing I want to see here is dot to be. I don't want to set it to a specific buffer. I guess we can say dot not to be empty, right? Because how does that buffer look? I think it's an array, if I'm not mistaken. So if I do dot not dot to be an empty array, I think I'm good there, because it's like a buffer is like an array of integers. And there we go. And then another thing I can do up top is I can just say, you know, I can have the same assumption, but I don't have to do that, right? We just want to make sure it's not empty. I think that's all we have for this router. Can't think of anything else. And again, with this kind of process, you can, if you think of another test that you need to add on later, you can always add that in. So it's not like, you know, you do it once and you're stuck with what you had. You can't change it. You can always change it and add more stuff. So I think that endpoint is done pretty good. So now we're going to test the describe. We're going to do our delete endpoint, and this is actually one of the simplest endpoints that we have here. And just want to take some of these extra slashes out if I don't need them. So we got slash posts, and that is our endpoint. And then we're going to do a anonymous function here. That's what that really is, an anonymous arrow function. And we're going to write our first test. We're going to say this should delete the specified posts. Should delete posts, right? We can just say should delete specify. Oh yeah, we have to say specify because we're not just deleting all of them. We're deleting the post that we specified. So more specific, right? And then we're going to have our async function this time. And this is where the work gets done. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to do a wait. We're going to do request. Put our app in here. We're going to do a dot delete this time. And then we're going to do our endpoint. And this is posts. And then we're going to do dot. And this is where we add the payload. So we're going to do dot send. And in this case, we're going to have ID. and ID is an array of object IDs. So I believe I can just go object, post 1 ID, post 2 ID. I believe those get converted to strings. So I think I can just put it in the body like that. And that's all I want to do. And then we're going to expect a 200 response from this. And then below, we're just going to make sure that the database is empty. I'm going to say expect. Actually, let me create a constant to hold our elements. We're going to say const, and these need to be back a little. We're going to say const posts equals post, post dot find, and we're just going to let that be empty, just like how it appears in the database when we go on to Robo3T. It shows us that this is what it really has in there. Well, not specifically this, but that's a shorthand version since we're using Mongoose. And here we're just going to say we're going to expect posts dot length dot to be, and it should be 0. There should be no posts in there, and that's all we have to do here. So they're going to run that and just make sure it gives us exactly what we said. I did forget to set the authorization, so that's fine, and that's actually one of the tests I forgot to run up in the what is this, the patch. So I'm just gonna go quickly go ahead and do that test. I'm actually gonna grab one of these 200s. Let me grab one of the easier ones. This already exists, so I'm just gonna grab this one, and then let's just say should I'll grab this one since it already has the error stuff in there that I want to say. Say should throw error if not authenticated. And then only thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change this to actually I'll just say active, right? I'll make it active. I just want something that I know works, so we're not getting the wrong error. And this changes to 401, and then I have to delete the setting of the authorization, and this should still work. Well, not still work. This should this bottom part here that we're expecting the status to be the same status that it was previously before we ran this. And what change did I put in over here? Oh, I see. I just did something simple. So now we should be getting our 200, not 400, excuse me, error response back, because now we have authorization. And there we go. So now our delete passes. We know that we can delete something. Excuse me. I need to remove this 404 thing, because it's like, hey, if you pass in, I guess what I was trying to do here was that if one of the IDs didn't exist, right, I wanted to throw 404. But that doesn't, well, I'm not gonna say if one of the IDs. I want to say if one of, no, that's really what it was. It was supposed to be if the post didn't exist, meaning the array didn't exist, to throw an error. But one thing I do want to test is to see what happens if I pass in an ID that doesn't exist. That is a bit of a loophole that I didn't check before. Not to say a loophole, but I just want to see what happens. So we're just doing new mongoose.types.id, and I'm still going to expect this 200, so I'm not going to change anything. I'm just going to run this and see what happens. Oh, I know what's going to give us an error. Object ID, right? Has no idea what I was talking about when I said ID. So I don't know if this is going to throw an error. Oh, it does, because one of them is a no. Oh, I see. So it still works this way too. So that's good to know. And I'm not going to leave this test in here, because this isn't testing my code. This is testing Mongoose stuff, right? DB stuff. So this is stuff that you should understand about your database when you're going in. Let's see. And realistically speaking, if the ID doesn't exist, it shouldn't be a problem because it's like, oh, okay, I just don't delete that thing because it doesn't exist. It's not like it's a big problem. It's the same thing like looking it up. If you look up an ID and it doesn't exist, it shouldn't give you an error, and that's all there is to it. So with that being said, the only thing I can find here to do an error is to actually I can't think of anything to that would throw a 500 error because it would have to be something wrong with deleting that post, right? Maybe, and as we saw, giving it an ID that doesn't exist doesn't break it. So at that point, there, what could you do, right? So that really wraps that up. Um, what is this here? So I'm going to take this test out, and actually I'm going to leave it because the only thing I want to do is go and say should throw a 401, right? Because we still have that 401 that's potential to be there. So we're going to throw 401 if the authorization isn't set. And that should be all we need to do here. And I'm actually just going to say, I think it should still be 2, right? And that'll be it. Boom. And then we got 46 tests again. And I think that's all. Even for user, I think when I deleted it, I only had 2 tests. Yeah, so that is all. So we actually did finish our post test suite now. And you see we got just under 300 lines of code here. And the same thing for our user router. So it doesn't really take a lot of code to test your database. At least for a simple database like this, right? We're not doing anything super complex. However, you guys know that these posts are going to end up having some comments associated with them. And the only reason why I didn't add the comments on here now is because of the fact that I don't have the interface for comments and I don't really know what that object is going to look like. So I didn't want to, screw myself up. So there will end up being another model for the comments, and it'll be, I mean, not another router, another model for the comments. And then once the comments actually, get passed, they'll be attached onto the post model. So you'll get to see that kind of what you call like a relational database, where you're relating something on one collection to other data on another collection and making sure that they're in alignment. So that'll actually be a little bit more interesting because it's a little bit more complex database setup. And then we still have 2 more routers to test. I almost forgot actually about our subscriber router. So excuse me for that. And what I haven't thought about was how am I gonna know that somebody subscribed, right? But I'll get into that later when we get there. I don't want to distract from what we're doing now. So I'm actually just gonna close out these 2 test suites since I know they're done, and then I'm gonna save this one for the post router as well. And now that that's done, I can actually go ahead and close that out. So next, we're just gonna go and continue down where we are, and what do I want to do? So let me look at setup, and you see setup is done pretty nicely. And the only thing I'm going to do here is say we could take all of the stuff that we have for user and create a method for it, and then just one thing though, I'm going to do this, and then we do that. So it's kind of more isolated to say, okay, start your user, delete it, then start our post, delete it. Doesn't necessarily have to be in that order, but I just thought it looks a little bit more organized. All the user stuff is with user, all the post stuff is with post. And now I'm just going to take this stuff because this is something that's going to be done over and over and over again. So the only thing I'm going to do here is go down and create a const, and I'm just going to say set up user DB, and then it's just gonna be a function call, and it's just gonna do this. And I believe user should be up. No, it's not. So we're just gonna do const user equals require and then we'll go ahead and put in our dot dot slash, and we're gonna grab our models slash user, and hopefully that works. So let's see this in action. And oh, I know we never called it, so I need to call this in the user stuff, and then I just need to say two things actually. I need to export this method. I need to export setup user DB, and I don't think I need to do the curly braces yet. And then we're gonna also pull this in. We're gonna do setup user DB. So only thing I'm gonna do here is put setup user DB like that, and call it that. And I'm actually gonna grab this again because I'm gonna have to do the same thing over in post. So we're gonna do, oop, wrong thing. Setup user DB, right? Control V, and I need these things here. Semicolon, couldn't think of the word initially, and I need to add that also to my import. And one thing that you can see is we haven't had to use our user1 ID, which is great. So I'm just gonna pull that out of here, so that way we only pull in what we need. And in here for user, we also don't need this now, so we don't have to import anything that we don't need now, and that makes everything that much better. So now I can save all three of these files and just verify the test again. So the test probably failed again because the database calls were not there, so it probably just made everything crash. Seems, oops. So let's see what I did wrong. I probably need to put a await in here. So here, trying to import a file after the jest environment has been torn down. I don't know exactly what it's referencing here. So it's something with the MongoDB. It's probably the setup user DB. So I'm thinking maybe I need to await. Oh, I see. So I don't need to put it there. What did I do? What did I do? Alright, so I believe what I need to do, take this await out, right? We don't need that. I need to have this, I need this to be async here. That's really the problem. Because it's just, well, you guys understand the importance of having your async and your awaits in there. Not gonna beat a dead horse there. So now we're getting a slightly different error, and it's talking about the duplicates. And this one is in test users. So let's see what's going on here. Actually, it seems like we're getting the same error we got the other day. So I'm almost certain. Let's see. Mongoose.types. Oh, wait. How did I get this old error? That told me I was too high up. So can't use keyword await outside of an async function. We should be past that as well. So let's go a little further down and see. So this is probably the new error that we're getting. So here we're saying trying to import a file. What else is going on? Can't use await outside. Yeah. So here, only one of these test suites passed. Failed actually. So we know it. I think it's just this duplicate here. So let's see where this is the problem. So I think it. Oh, I think I remember correctly. Um, let's see here. The object IDs in here are the same, and it's because of this ID. That is interesting. Initially, I thought it was because of what was happening with the JWT tokens, but that doesn't seem to be the case. But I'm a little bit more confused because over here in, oh, I see. That is what we did right there. That was our problem. I set up user to take all the new stuff, but I didn't delete the original setup that was in there. So that caused a problem. And now we're having a slightly different problem. So let me just CLS this. I'm going to go into the database, drop it, clean everything, make sure everything's gone. I'm not sure why everything isn't being cleared at the end. Oh, at the end of everything, but that's fine. So I'll just go in and do that manually to just make sure that your that the database is dropped. It's clean, it's fresh for this new series of tests that are going to go in. So let's go ahead and connect. Let's go ahead and go to collections, and let's just go ahead and drop the users and make sure that that's working good. We're also going to drop this because I don't know why test is creating subscribers yet. We shouldn't have any subscribers in there. We're going to drop that one as well. And then we can even drop posts, right? It's not going to hurt. So make sure everything is fresh. And then we're going to go ahead and run npm test. So if we get this again, then it's more than likely something I did wrong in the setup. And we are getting it. But as you can see, some tests are still working. So that's actually not bad. My problem here is that I get caught up in the old test. So in this case, we're expecting some. Oh, okay. So I'm okay with some of these errors because it seems like we're getting some errors that should be thrown, but they're not. See, I'm okay with some of these because it seems like I'm writing something wrong here. So let's go ahead and check it out. And actually, this is too far up because this is where we are. Mongo server is closed. Conflict 409 got bad request, so should not allow duplicate users. So when we check this out, we're expecting our 409, which is correct, but somehow we're getting something else. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to revert back to the original way for a second, and I'm just going to save it. Reason being is might have screwed up somewhere. Not exactly sure where, but something is definitely off. Yeah, see, look at that. So now I want to delete this, and yeah, actually I want to delete this all the way back to its original state. Save it, and then do the same thing over here. Oh, I'm hitting Control S, not Control Z. So I just saved that a lot. And let's see, put this back here, and I'm actually in the wrong router again. So I'm actually gonna put all that back. I'm gonna put all this back. Wait a second. There we go. put that back, and the only thing I have to change is user. Some reason user still giving us a conflict, and I'm not sure if it's because of not disconnecting, not deleting the users when we're done. So that's the only thing I can think of beforehand. But I don't want to spend too much time on this, so I'm going to just put everything back to how it was before. Wait, what's this here? Yeah, so put it back to the way it was before, and I'll put that stuff in at the end, like once everything's done, to save my time, save your time. I don't want you guys watching and wrong buttons here, and they are going to no, luckily it didn't cost me. So now fix that one. If I save all of these, it should go back to its normal state. Can't make any promises because sometimes okay, there we go. So back to where it was. I'll worry about all of the extra cleanup setup stuff at the end where I know I'm done, so I don't want to screw myself up. But still kind of weird though, right? Because if I put everything back in here and only call this setup user DB, when I set up my post, it seems like it doesn't really have a problem with that. So if I go and remove the user stuff from here and put in the setup user DB, I can now remove the user model completely and run this again. I want to see if I still have errors, and then that'll tell me that potentially what's happening is nope. So I don't know. So it's something specific to the user router. Don't want to spend too much time on this, but I'm sorry, I just got a little. I'm one of those people, like, if I do something and then and then it works in some cases, not the other. I'm like, okay, let me explore this. Maybe I like did a typo or something. Anything. So I'm not sure exactly what's happening here because it's saying duplicates, right? And we definitely don't have duplicates. And I'm not sure if it's because of things happening simultaneously or what. So I'm actually just gonna go ahead and leave the user alone, and I'll keep everything else working as it was. So I at least know that I can use this setup here, the setup user DB, in other places. So as of right now, that's good enough for me. It's a pretty good stepping stone to have moving forward. So now I'm going to go into the test and I'm going to create my new file, and I'm going to create our projects file. And I'm going to do .test.js. So now we have a new test suite, and it's going to fail, right? Because it doesn't have any test in there. So let's just go ahead and get the basics out of the way. So we're going to do const, request equals require, and this is going to be super test, the library we've been using to make our request. And then another thing we're going to need mongoose, because we're going to need to create some IDs. Not MongoDB, mongoose. And then we're also going to need the project router, right? Equals require project. Nope. So for this models / project, right? And then we're gonna have const. I believe we also need. Oh, we need the app itself. So we need app, and that's gonna equal require. In this case, we can just do dot slash to get back to the root. Excuse me, and then we have our app there. So now we get to set up our before each thing here, and we're just going to do our async process as always. and it's going to be the function, I believe. Oh, forgot the arrow. So before each, we're going to do, of course, we're going to do project, right? We're going to clear this thing out. Project dot delete many, and we're just going to get rid of it. And also, we're going to start adding the new projects in there. So as you saw in most places, the way we did it is we have an element that, not an element, but we create maybe one or two. I always create two because I just like when I do the delete with multiple ones, I already have everything that I need there to check. Well, I have more than one, so I can make sure it's deleting everything that's in that array as opposed to just one thing. And so, oh, this is the test suite that failed. Okay, that's fine. So now I'm gonna go ahead and create our first project. So we're gonna do const project one equals, and I'm just gonna go over to the project model because I don't remember everything off the top of my head. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab everything that's on this object here. And sooner or later, I feel like I'm going to have to do some more indexing stuff with the project model eventually. So one thing I can do right now, I can just kind of make things easy for myself, really. And I can just go const project schema. And this, I mean, this could be something that you just do off by default with your with any project. Just create the schema first anyway. And reason being is it saves you time if you want to make not updates to your stuff. You just already have it there. You can just drop it, go. Project schema. And that's really all we have to do, right? Because everything else is going to work as stated. So now we save everything, and I still haven't actually got this thing set up. We're going to get an error. So we're going to do project is going to be, actually, that's why I copied everything in from the schema. So I'm going to clean this up a bit, but I wanted to make sure I had all this stuff correct. So we're going to say the type is going to be test. The URL is going to be doesn't really matter what we put in here. www.example.com. Alright. Date completed. We don't even have to add that, so I'm not. Let's see. Date started. It's going to be defaulted, so we don't have to worry about that either. And then we can do the. So actually, we leave this the way it is, and we're gonna we're gonna start with the title, give it a title. We're gonna say I wanted it to replace this stuff. Right, it's called it the heading. Content is gonna be this is the heading. This is the main topic, right? Whatever. Right. Images, also a string. So I'm gonna say this is a picture. This is an image. Boom. And then caption. Didn't think about this, but I'm gonna say this is an image caption. Oh, this is an image. Huh? This is an image caption. And I think, where is that array thing supposed to be? Oh, it's supposed to be, it could be more than one. So I think I have to do this. Let me just verify that by looking at this over here. Nope, individual image by itself. So I don't know how I got this extra array thing up in here. So now we're good there. Let's see what else you have to clean up. Sections. not sure what else they're looking for here. It's probably just that we don't have anything in here, so I'm just gonna do await project project dot new project. There we go. Oh wait, I think I remember now what the problem was. There we go. So it'll be await new project. Oh, project. I'll say project one dot save. New user. Yep, user one dot save. Probably gonna miss an issue because project one isn't closed properly. That's interesting because so that just means one of these tags are off. Sections should be in. Oh, I see it right here. Images is an object nested in an array. If I have this correct, yeah. So we got images down here correctly. So now everything else is working politely. Up here, image. I'm just gonna do the same thing here. Is just gonna say this is the main image. And then we're gonna do the overview. It's gonna say project description, right? Keep it simple. And then name, it's gonna be project one. And then it's actually a good thing that I did do what I did because as I did with, and when I say I did what I did, it's a good thing that I enhanced this project schema because I'm going to end up adding indexing like I did on the post right here. The reason being is I have the same concept in terms of finding duplicates. However, I'm going to keep it this. I'm not going to change it right now because I already know that this schema is going to change. So I don't want to do anything right now that I won't need later. So I'm going to go ahead and create our second project, and then I'm going to write the first test just to make sure everything's working, and we'll get started with all of our work. So now we're going to describe the first test. If I can spell, and we're just going to say this is going to be post, of course, and it should be / projects, right? And then we're going to do our first describe block is now done, and then we're going to write our first test. And I don't know why I keep getting these autocomplete stuff, but it should create a new project, and then we'll just do our async. Do our async, and then we're just going to do our await request, pass in app, and then we're going to do dot post. It's going to be / projects dot send. Dot send. There we go. What the heck? And I'm lazy, so I'm just gonna copy all of this stuff here and paste that in, and I'm just gonna change the project name. Boom. And that should be everything. So if I save this, we should have a working test. Maybe not. I guess it was waiting for me for too long and it got tired. Actually, it seemed like something more significant happened, but from when I look here, it doesn't seem to be the case. So let's get this bad boy back up and running. Yeah, still only one failing test suite, and let's see what that is. Oh, never change the constant one. And drop 2 there, and hopefully this fixes it. Right, I don't really play around with the projects router again because it's really a mess right now in terms of the way it looks. It looks messy. You know, some of these things probably could have been set. I mean, you can get really complex with these things. You can take all of this stuff and put them in their own model, and you know, especially when they start to get complex, you might want to take a really complex model. I mean, schema, break it down to a lot of simple parts, and then when you build the actual model for the whole thing, which is essentially one thing at this point, you will use what they call relational database and set up and link all those things together. But we don't have to do this in this specific case because it's really not that complex, right? So yeah, we got our first test going, and I actually did that without looking at the uh, router, so that's cool. I'm just closing out some of these other things that we don't need, and I'm just going to split this to the right, and I want to also open up the project router so I can see, excuse me, all of the things that are going on over there. And I'm just going to do one thing and pull in this into, oop, shit, oop, wrong button. So Control X and just drop it in here, just because everything's already in here, right? So why waste? So I'm just going to compare this to what I've done in the other routers, because it seems like I'm having some issues here, right? I create this thing here, but the first thing I need to do is check to make sure that's correct. So I need to put that down in here before we just start creating new post project objects. We shouldn't have any issues, but you know, never know. So I'm just gonna wait for this to finish. And there we go, still passing. So now we are going to go a step further. So we're going to grab this and we're going to say, one thing we didn't do off the top of my head is we didn't expect anything, and that's why the test automatically passed. So we should expect a 201 here, and we should also expect that const, I'm going to say projects, right, equals await project dot find, and all I'm going to do is just go and grab all of that, and then I'll just say expect project with an S dot to I want to get the length, so I can do dot length because it's already going to be an array, right? And I can just do dot to b, and it should be 3 because we already have 2 in there, right? So and test is failing. Why project dot find can't use await outside of an async function. So now I'm trying to figure, oh, I see. The test ended there, and we put this stuff down here. So we need to grab this and bump it up a line. Actually, we need to bump this up a line to expect. That expect 201. There's there. And then down here, we need to, there we go. Put our expectations there. And then I can remove this. There we go. So now we should be fine. Let's see. So we're still getting one fail here. Authorized, and that is actually correct. We are not authorized. So let's go ahead and get that authorization in there. Oop. Let's get authorization. Here we go. Now should be good to go. Whew. This one's bulky, just because of the size of the stuff we're sending. It's like we're not changing anything else. And what did it not like here? User 1. So I didn't import all of the setup stuff that we need. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that for sure. And I'm just going to put it right below app. And I'm going to call this right here. So before we start delete many, I'm just going to put that right up in there. And booyah. And still a failure, huh? So wait, received 11. Oh wait, I think, what is this here? Dot length. Now this is truly interesting. So now I'm gonna look over here and refresh this and look and see what's going on in there. And it really does have 11. Project 1, project 2, project 1, project 2. Oh geez. So something funky is going on here. And the funny thing is that it didn't really have an impact. So I don't think I'm going to do is, for right now, I'm going to just say unique true, right? And leave it at that and see what that does. And then the last thing I forgot to do is do after all, right? After all. So after all the tests are run, I'm going to do async. And we're going to disconnect from our new mongoose.disconnect. And I believe that's all we have to do there. So it's still going to fail, because in this case we got a 409 with a conflict, so that's good. That's good. So to make things easier for myself, I'm just going to go ahead and drop this whole collection. I have no idea why so many of those were created. So let's just run that bad boy again. And now we're still getting a conflict here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this router, because if it was working like it was supposed to, we would have never had that problem to begin with, right? So we're using the name and the type to specify. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this, and we're going to do our index on this. I know I said I wasn't going to do it, but I mean, obviously there's no workaround for this. So we're going to do project schema dot in collection, I believe. Project schema dot collection dot. Wait, why does this not look right? So luckily for us, we can just go ahead and grab this information. Oh, so it's just straight dot index. Dot index, and then what we're going to do, we are using name, so we're going to do name, and we're using type, I believe. Type, and there we go. So now I'm going to save that, and I'm going to have to go back and drop the database again. Let me refresh everything. Actually, only two things I want to look at. Okay, so it seems like it did good the first time, but I have no idea why it was so consistent with having all those things going in. Could have been actually all of the times we ran the tests, and since there was nothing there to stop it, stop each test from running and leaving everything in there, it did. But now I'm actually a little cautious about this delete many, because delete many should have deleted everything. So I want to go a little deeper. I'm just going to do dot project dot, and I'm just going to hit delete, remove. In order to remove, we have to put it, let's see here. So let's go over and say mongoose clear database. So I don't think we have to do that to drop it before test. So this should have already been solved, but I'm just thinking something else is going on in here. What is this? Require mongoose clear database connection. Okay, so what they did was they just dropped it. I can do that. I'm not going to do it right now. But if it comes down to it, that would probably be the fastest way to do it. So let's see if we get it passed now. So now everything's passing. So yeah, that was pretty much what happened. We had previous tests before we even started, cleaning stuff up. We had some tests in there that ran, and when the test ran, it never cleared out that data. Don't ask me why. So now that we've got that running, we're back on to where we were. So now the next test should not. Actually, let me look at the project router, because now that we have the router, we can actually pull this. We can pull all of this out. So look at that, we're removing 3 lines and replaced it with 1 line somewhere else. So now we already know that we can't save a duplicate, and we can actually I can do the same thing again over here with user, right? So many things we can do now that we understand that one little fix with the indexing. And I'm just going to use our post router for a second because of, I think I did it with patch, right? Yeah, here it is. So I actually want this because this is going to be the catch-all, right? I can use this everywhere. So I grab that there, but what I want to do is I want to go up to this router here and grab the message as well. Grab all of those lines that we don't need, and then I'm just going to put the same catch block in there. Over in the user router, I'm actually going to do the same thing, except in the user router, not the user router, the user model, I do have to add on that indexing. And I think user is already a little complex because I do think, did I create an index? Okay, cool. I didn't create any indexing on user yet. So I'm just going to go, actually before we start doing all of our sneaky stuff, we're going to do user schema dot index. We're going to create the index on the email, and we're just going to say, actually I don't think we have to do that. So email is already unique, right? And yeah, so I don't even think we need to do this for the email. However, I'm going to do it anyway. Reason being is I want that 400 to come out. And the only way to do that, actually, let's see what happens, right? Because what's going to happen is the test is going to break, and we'll be good. And the only reason why I created indexing in the project and the post router models is because those needed 2 specific things to be unique as opposed to 1. So, and the unique here isn't really a validator. So I'm really interested to see what's going to happen there. And this is obviously a learning experiment here. We know users gonna break, just don't know how badly. So here, 2 tests failed, and let's see why. So the first one failed because, and we're not really worried about projects right now because we're trying to set up our new test and we're not done. So actually, the only tests that failed were, what is the projects? Okay, so we're just not finished there, and then here. Encounter a declaration exception. So it seems like it's had an issue with project 1. I'm actually not understanding that one at all. And for some reason it doesn't want to show me, I'm going to say it doesn't want to show me, but I'm just going to CLS, drop that all together. And I'm going to finish this test out. Should not create duplicate projects, right? And to save myself, I'm going to just drop all of my collections again. Can't grab them all at once. I'm just drop. And it's kind of weird that the stuff stays in here. And now that I think about it, the reason why the stuff's staying in here is because all of the tests are still there. So before each test, we do this, and then what if it was after each test, right? After all, so what we can do is we're gonna just do mongoose. So after all of this, we just do mongoose dot actually no, we can do it before each test and then after all of them are done, because we don't want to keep anything in our database. Oh, I see. This is why we're failing. No other reason, right? We didn't await anything. Boom. And this is also a promise, so we have to await this as well. And I doubt I did these in other places. Yeah, I just disconnected. I didn't even await them. So before I go ahead and put this in there, I want to make sure that that works when you put the await, to see if disconnecting from it does anything. And the reason why I knew I have to put await in here is because the disconnect returns a promise. CLS, and here we go. So I'm perfectly fine with most of these failing. I just want to go and look at the databases here, well, the collections I should say, and see what happens. Yeah, so they still are there, and I don't know why subscribers actually got created. Probably because in app the model is set up to have it. We created the model. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to I guess the fastest way would be to drop the collection, but I'll just do await, and I'll just do I'll just do user dot delete many, right? Get rid of all of the stuff that's in the user. We're gonna do the same thing in project. We just say await post dot delete many, and we're gonna do the same thing in project. We're gonna say await project dot delete many. All right, cool. So we got all of that done. Didn't mean to do that. As long as nothing else breaks. Oh yeah, look at that. So by doing that, we already cleaned something up that we didn't even know we had to clean up. And if I refresh all of these, they should be empty. So post empty, projects empty, subscribers empty, users is not empty. let's go ahead and refresh this. First, let me close all of these out because this is disgusting. So users re-execute the query is still there, and wonder why. User dot delete many, right? After all the issues was delete many and then clear out. So only thing to do, drop the collection and start fresh. If it still doesn't do it, then it's just ignore my commands really, because all the other collections are doing this. So let's just rerun all of those tests. And we're getting our error because this test isn't finished in our projects router. And over here, there's something with the duplicate going on here. Back to users, okay. So, I don't know what's going on with that one, but let's just check our database, right? That's the most important thing that I was looking at here. Refresh, still got collections back. Post is empty as it should be. Projects empty as it should be. Users still not empty. And don't know why here. These I really don't care about. Local stuff is still gonna have all the local stuff that we put in there. Now I just got those mixed up, so I'm gonna clear them all out. Stick it over here. So users is not clearing out whatsoever. And I think this might have something to do with setup, right? I thought, I thought something had to call it in order for this thing to do whatever's going on there. So, who knows? Can't really see anything else going on here, but I mean, it's not going to hurt anything to have that. I could just drop the database completely to make sure that it's fresh, but it's not that serious, so I'm not going to do that. I did, however, just want to make sure everything was cleared and out of the way. So it is, and for the most part, I'm okay with that. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and delete this test right now to see what's going on with this project test. Everything should be fine, but who knows, right? So okay, so it was probably just something that test probably just caused multiple problems. So now that we're good there, we're gonna go back to where we were. So I'm gonna say test should not create duplicate projects. And then when we do our async on that, now we're back to where we were. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and grab everything from this first test, and I'm just going to change one thing. I'm just going to change the title to be title to be 1. And I believe I have the project router now set up to catch that 4. Oh no, I don't. So let me go over to the user router. I believe I copied this thing. Nope. I need to go down to the post router and copy this response, and I need to actually move this over into the user router and put this in, excuse me, with the rest of it. So now we can go ahead and do all of this. Let's see. Patch is what I'm looking for. So I can do the same exact thing. So here we try to look the user up and then update it and save. So I think I can do the same thing here. Could be mistaken here because if the email already exists. That's what I don't want to do. I want to say email already exists, and actually um, exists with an S, right? And then if I go to project, pretty much doing the same thing. Going into this, uh, block here to make sure I get that 409, and then the same thing in the patch. I can go down and make sure I get that 409, and I can just go ahead and save all of these. And I probably should have done them one by one because if anything broke, I would have been screwed. I wouldn't have known. However, since we are in a, oh look at that, there we go. Since I already have tests running, I can automatically see what's being broke. So that's why I'm able to manipulate multiple files at once and not have to worry about it. And in this case, this should be 2, not 3, because that didn't go through. So now we have everything in place. And now I'm trying to think about what else we need to test. So I'm just going to get rid of this other router so that way everything stays clean and simple so we can see what's going on and we don't get lost in all the different files. So back to the top here, we get our 201 if we save the project. We get our 409 for any duplicates, and we also need to test our 400 if we leave off any of the required fields. So what I'm going to do is should throw should not create projects without a project, right? A project. Let's say projects is sort of word without required fields. And you can do it like this, right? I'm gonna do it like that, right? So let's just whack the name. And when you whack the name, now it's missing a required field, and it should not create it. So we're just making sure we get the error that we're supposed to get, and then you just check to make sure that it actually wasn't there. So it's kind of like a multi-part check with this. And we're already seeing something here. We do get an error with this one saying that we got a excuse me, we got a 201, so it created. So now we got to look at this router and say, hey, name is required. And however, when we take the name out here, it still passed. And why is that? Let's see. Oh wait, project.save. So this is actually interesting. You would have thought that if it was missing the required field, that this oh, I don't like the way that looks. Let me see where the end of this is, and wrap it like so. And then now this needs to, oh wait, wrong way. There we go. Then did I zoom out? Yeah. So name is required, but it still created the post. So we're expecting that bad request. We got 201. Why is that? I think we did everything correct. So I guess I'll have to go back to comparing it to something similar, right? So let's go up to here. We do your try. We got our new thing. Try to save it, and then you do, you know, our usual, right? However, here we didn't have it so easy. So if you look at the post, we've got God's post equals new post, request that body, right? We got the same thing going there. Everything is really the same in the setup. So my thought process is going to be that we're doing something wrong here. Let's see. Name is definitely missing now. What about, so let's look at this project router one more time. Oh, 1 second, my dogs. I'm gonna talk to Vet about that. I'm gonna call him. I know I said that yesterday. But I have to call him in the morning and see what's going on. He's probably got a hairball. Because they were saying all the hair in his teeth. I'm thinking hair in his throat as well. So let's go and look at. Huh. Oh, I see. We put require, not required. So there's a typo, and actually, there's a typo in a few places. That'll do it. And if we look over at here, same kind of thing. Look at that. Perfect. So now we're good. And down to the next line. I saw the word post and I thought it was on the wrong tab. Alright, so we got our duplicate. Cool. Let's get our 401. And then to get the 400, how will we get that? Oh yeah, we already know how to get. We already got the 400. So let's go here to get the 401. Should not create projects. If unauthenticated, or it should be really unauthorized, but you know, yeah. So I'm actually just gonna do a cheat again. This is a hack with Visual Studio Code. I'm gonna say authenticated, right? And everywhere here, I still need to unauthenticated, right? So now I can replace all of those with unauthorized. And actually I'm going to do a type checking with that. Unauthorized. Unauthorized. And I'm terrible at spelling, so I'm actually going to Google this. Alright, I spelled it right. So I'm going to replace all of these. Yep. And then take the type checking off and just make this U capitalized so that it matches, and then replace those, and voila. And it automatically reruns our test because those are still save operations. Boom, look at that. what was I looking for here? I think I just copied this test. Yeah, unauthorized. So I'm gonna pull this authorization out, and we should get 401 here. And I'm actually gonna put the name back in there just so it doesn't throw the wrong error. So we should have 51, I think. Oh no, 50 still, because I think it was a duplicate test. So we've got all of the not all. Do we have all of them? So we did it. We got a 200. Oh, two. We got a 201. We got our 409. We got our 400. And we got our 401. So I believe that's all we needed there. So now we're gonna go on to the next one. We're gonna describe, and we're gonna say this is the Git router, and we're gonna say slash projects slash ID, and then we're gonna keep going with this, and then we're gonna say our what is this gonna be? Test, and then we're writing should fetch all existing. We just fetch all projects, right? We already know they exist because how are you gonna fetch something that doesn't exist? Async and async. And I think I needed, yeah, I needed to close in one, and I need to close in parentheses. There we go. And we're gonna do our request, await first, right? Await request, and this chair is really starting to piss me off. Await request, put in our app, and we're gonna do .get, and this time we will need those IDs that we didn't add before. So this is why we kept Mongoose on here, because we want, actually no, we don't need those IDs. Oh yes, yes we do. So we do const project one ID equals new mongoose dot types dot object ID, and then we're gonna do the same thing to get our second one. And then only thing we're gonna do over here is we're gonna do underscore ID equals, or not equals, but, and we just put the project 2 ID on that. Boom, comma, and then this will be project 1 ID underscore ID, comma, and we're good. And for this test, we want to make sure we use that ID. So we're gonna do slash projects slash project 1 ID, right? And here we're gonna set our authorization. I don't want to type that out. I'm gonna grab it from here. Set authorization, and luckily for us in our setup we actually got user 1, so we don't have to worry about that. And what else do we need? We need to send, nope, not send, we're getting all we want there. Dot expect a 200, and then we should const, we'll do projects plural equals await project dot find, and it should find all of the projects in here, and it would just say expect expect projects projects dot length dot to be, and it should be 2, right? And here is actually where I can do like we did with post, and copy everything that we did for that router. And the reason why I copy it is because, I mean, it's the same kind of tests, because we're using the those limit and, you know, what's the word I'm looking for, limit, skip, and all that stuff. So you know, nobody really wants to go through and, oh, actually that was the wrong router, so I'm actually just going to copy this for later while I'm already here. So this is the next suite of lookups that we're going to have for our get all posts. I forgot this one is getting it by ID. So we're still good here. And I'm actually just going to write two tests at once since I know what the second test is going to be. I'm going to do should. Actually, what is the... I'll run it. Next test is... Oh, we already got an error. So, wait a second. That just happened out of nowhere. So I'm actually, I don't know what just happened here. That was interesting. We literally ran one test and then boom, had a problem. It seems like, oh, I see. Project 2 ID is on project 1 ID. And I think that's it. And it's not like it's doing any promises or anything. So there we go. So we're back to normal. I just had the wrong ID on our project 1. So it was just referring to that and had some kind of conflict. Created the problem. So here we're good to go. We're going to test now the different things that can go wrong here. Excuse me. I don't need to send a 404 if it actually I do need to send a 404 if it doesn't exist. So we should say test should throw an error if project does not exist. And then we go into our async. And then we're going to await our request app.get. We're going to do dot nope, not dot this case I need to do slash post projects slash ID. So we do project 1 ID, good enough for me. And then we're gonna do dot set our authorization. And this time I'm gonna write it out by hand because I have something in my what do you call it, keyboard collection, whatever you want to call it. I copied something. Clipboard, there it is. To get something in my clipboard. Comma, and then we're gonna do the same thing with bearer. And type this out by hand, and we use $sign to pull in the value that we want, and it's going to be user 1 dot tokens, and we want the first token on there, and then we're going to do dot token, and now we've got that. And at the end of this we're going to do dot expect a 404, and instead of this we're actually supposed to do something else. Actually, I think I can use the second one. That's supposed to expire. That's not even supposed to be good, right? So I can just change the token, and we should be good to go. And then I'll do const projects, right? Just to make sure it didn't create it. Equals await project dot find, And in doing that, we're going to expect to say, all right, projects.length should be 2. And we are good there. Actually, why am I checking this length? We're just getting. What I should be doing actually is asserting that the title on this thing here. So I should make sure I should say maybe title, and I should do find by ID. That's really what I should do, because when we get it, actually this is where we want to do our const response, right? Look up our response equals that, and we might want to say response. Well, no, we might want to say, hey, we want to make sure that response dot title, right? Well, dot body dot title is equal to the projects, and actually it'll be project, because we're going to make this find by ID. This will be find by ID, and we'll just put user one, not user one, would be project one ID, right? So we're going to expect the title to equal the same title there. And it seems like something failed because the test isn't complete, so that's perfectly fine. While I'm thinking about it, I'm going to do the same thing here. Actually, it's nothing to actually test here. Once you get the 404, that's pretty much it. Let's see. We want to test to make sure we can get 401, right? I guess the only thing to test here is to make sure it's empty. And the only way to do that is say it should be an empty object. Actually, did this wrong. Wrong one. So here we should expect. So we say const response equals, and we'll say, hey, we're gonna oops, wrong button. Expect response dot body dot to be an empty object. And then here we're gonna say should oh, I see what happened. There we go. I was only supposed to take this out. Expect const response equals that, and we should say expect response dot body dot to be an empty object. And then here we should say should throw an error if unauthorized. And then we're going to do async, and then we're going to continue with our usual duty here, and we're going to say const response equals await request app dot get, and we're going to say our projects slash this project one ID here, and we're going to do another dot, and this is where we're going to set our authorization. Station, and then reset our bearer token, and this is going to be user 1. And actually, we don't even have to set this. I'm curious now though, and this should go back to 0, 1, and then we'll do dot, oh no, user 1 dot tokens, number 1 dot token, and we're gonna do dot expect a 401, and then below this we're gonna say expect our response dot body dot to be, and then we'll say oh yeah, it's just the empty object because we're not sending anything. And actually it should just be empty, right? Let's see what happens with that though. So it's wrong because the object is wrong. So here, supposed to get our, and the reason why we didn't get it is because this object ID, this ID is valid. So new mongoose dot types dot object ID, boom, and then this one is fine the way it is. And we expect it unauthorized here, but still got authorization on that. Let's look at our setup. So somehow that token is still somehow valid. So I don't even think I needed this token on here, but I wanted it for logout all. Let's see. So I'm just gonna take it off. Right, easiest way to get what you want is just remove it. Could have went another way and tried to just create a token and get rid of it, but you know, who wants to do all of that? Actually, I forgot to get the projects. We really don't need an authorization thing in here. Forgot that quick, that we're not authorizing our users in this thing. I do know how to get the 500 error, of course, and the way we're going to get that is, so actually for all of these gets, we don't even need this. Here, we're going to expect a 500 because, D is invalid. So this time it's not the ID existing, it's invalid. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give this like an ID like the number 1, right? Let's say we created our own kind of setup here, and we're like, oh yeah, we want the first project, but we're like, hey, ha, we don't index that way, you're going to get an error. And we're getting the error now is because I think it's this 2B stuff we got going on here. Yeah. So I'm actually just going to remove these because there actually isn't anything being sent. There's no payload. And there we go. So now we have our passing tests for get, and now we can do our copy paste for the new get all router, right? So only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to copy anything that has a post in it, really, right? I can just copy this word here and do Control F, and I actually want to keep the case matching here, and this is going to be project in the singular sense. I'm going to replace all of those, right? And then I'm going to undo this. Well, I didn't mean to hit that. I meant to hit this, right? And I don't know what I just did. But I'm just change this to be capital project and replace all of those. So I believe all of these should be corrected now. And I'm just gonna run this just to make sure. It's faster than kind of looking over it. I can just see which ones fail and fix those. So I am expecting some errors, and that's all fine. So first things first here is oh, I see. Oops. So let's go let's go Control F. Oh, Control F. I'm gonna do dot project, and I gotta fix those because those are supposed to be dot post. And I probably should have went all the way down to the opening parentheses just to make sure it was exact. There we go. Now only one of these is failing. And the reason why that is because should fetch all projects within a limit. Did I create both projects here? I did. Okay. So the problem here is that we expected -1 to give us undefined, except we got a project. We got the second one actually. So why does this happen? If we put a limit for -1, I thought that would have given us the limit for -1. Only thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go look at the post test. Seems to work there. So what I'm gonna I remember. I didn't change it for the project router, I'm assuming. So this syntax is actually backwards. 30 and limit query. There we go. So I did in fact miss that. So with that being said, I'm also going to check and make sure. Okay, so I have it correct here for the user router, and for the subscriber router I do not even have that thing set there. I could do the limitations and stuff on that. I'll probably add that a little later. Right now I just want to stick to the task at hand with testing. And actually I'll just go ahead and leave on a good note, because we've already got 1, 2, 3 endpoints done, and we only have 2 left. So we'll probably finish this more than likely we'll finish this up tomorrow, probably within the first half hour. If not, then definitely the first hour we'll have all these tests done. And I guess we can talk a little bit more about what's going to be the next steps. I do know I do want to try to get the project posted to AWS Lightsail. For me, it's smarter to start there, so that way I don't have to move my project later when it gets bigger. But depending on the complexity, I might stick with doing it on Heroku. So bear with me on that, because this is going to be something completely brand new. And as you guys see, I am trying to get it all going. So it's only a matter of time. But I just haven't, like I said, I haven't gotten through the process. So that'll be stuff that we'll be working on tomorrow. Test suites will definitely be done, and we'll be that much closer to getting ready to complete this project. So thanks for tuning in, guys. I'm just gonna go ahead and commit my stuff, and I hope you have a good evening. And